This is going to be a very quick tutorial of the basics that you need to know when you're using your mini educator with 2 dog collars. So when you're using your mini educator with 2 dogs and 2 dog collars, your buttons are going to look a little bit different. They have the same functions, but you need to use them differently. And so first thing that I want to note is the black and red stimulus buttons are different now. So your black button is now going to provide a stimulus with your dog collar that is black. The red stimulus button is now going to communicate with the red dog collar, okay? So when we're looking at our screen here, what we will see is on the top, there will be a flashing 1D. That is that black button and the black collar. On the bottom, when we get a flashing 2D, that is referring to the red button and the red collar. So the first thing that I want to talk about is when we are dealing with 2 dogs, very rarely are any 2 dogs going to be at the exact same number in every situation. And so if you're looking at this normally, there's only one level and you can turn that dial and you can provide a stimulus for each dog at that level. But like I said, that's not really how life works. Dogs are going to respond differently at different levels just naturally, and then when you're surrounded by different distractions, different environments, that number is going to have to change for each individual dog. So there's a way that we can work through that. So what we want to do is we want to pick the dog that has the least amount of variation in their number, who is fairly steady, and we're going to lock in that dog's stimulus level. The way that we do that is we need to first select the dog, which means we need to tell the remote, are we talking about dog 1 or dog 2? So right now you can see there's a flashing 2D at the bottom of the screen. That is correlating with that second dog, that red dog collar. Remember, if I wanted it to communicate with the black collar, I would tap the black button, and now you can see that it's flashing 1D. Red button, and we're now flashing 2D communicating with that second dog. So let's say that the second dog with the red button and the red collar, we want to lock in that number at a 6. What we're going to do is make sure that that 2D is flashing, and then we're going to hold down this the knob that changes the levels until you see your number flash, and now that number is locked for the second dog. So if I tap that red button, that dog will feel a stimulus at a level 6. Doesn't matter how much I turn it, dog 2 will feel it at a level 6. Now what we get to do is we can have some variation for the first dog, black button, black collar. The way that that works is we need to select that dog. So we're going to hit that black S. And now you can see all of a sudden, because I had been turning this, dog number 2 is actually at a 28. No, that's backwards. And I can move that number around as much as I want to. So let's say, for whatever reason, 26 is the number that dog 1 with the black remote needs. When I tap that black button, we're going to be at a 26. When I tap the red button, it's going to give that dog a stimulus at a 6. If I were to tap the black button again, we're back at a 26. And I am allowed to change that number now for dog 1, but if I go back to dog 2, its number is still locked. I know that's a lot, so take some time to process through this one. To unlock that dog's number, make sure that you tap the red button so that you see flashing 2D at the bottom. You're going to hold down this knob until your number flashes, and you can see now it's at a 30 because I had been moving it around a bunch. And now what we can do, turn it way down, dog 2 I could do at a 5, dog 1 is also going to be at a 5. If I want to change that number for both dogs, as I change the dial and I turn the number up, both dogs will be feeling this level unless or until I choose to lock in a level for each individual dog. Next, let's talk about the tone button. We use the tone to teach our dogs recall, so when they hear that beep, it means come find us. Typically, when you're on a one dog system, when you tap this T button here, it'll just automatically send a tone to your dog. When you have two collars connected though, when you tap this, it's not going to send a tone to either collar because it doesn't know which dog you're talking about yet. So what we do when we want to send a tone to the dog's collar, we tap that T button, and you'll notice on the screen now we get this weird little looking T. This tells us that we are now in the tone mode, and now we can tell the remote which dog we want to talk to and provide that tone for by clicking either dog 1 or dog 2. So we're in tone. If I tap the black button with the black collar, the black collar gets the tone. If I tap the red button, the red dog, or the dog with the red collar, gets the tone. So you are not able to provide any stimulus when you're in this mode though. So if you tap that tone, dog comes, you don't need the tone anymore. You would tap that T button again. You now see those levels, and you can now use those stimulus buttons again. The last thing I want to show you is how to turn on the LED light for each individual dog collar. So what you'll see again when we look at the remote, because I tapped the red button for the red collar for the second dog, that was the last button that I pushed, it is now telling me that it's communicating with that red collar. If we want to turn on that collar light, we're going to do the same thing that we would for just a normal one dog system. We're going to tap that light button one time, turns these to flashing, twice turns it to solid, 3 times turns it off. If I want to communicate with the black collar and turn that light on, I first need to tap that black button. Now remember, I'm going to go pretty low because I don't actually want the dog to feel anything. I'm not using that button for any purpose other than to tell the remote, hey, I want you to talk to the black collar. So make sure you keep that number low. And then we're going to go to the light button on the back, tap it one time, it flashes, tap it again, it goes solid, tap it again, it turns off. So obviously there is a lot that you can do with this remote and the system when you have 2 dog collars connected with it. It is important that you get really comfortable with understanding it though, because you don't want to accidentally hit the wrong button or hit the button for the dog that you're not trying to communicate with. You don't want to accidentally recall the wrong dog. It's not the end of the world, but really get comfortable with the system. It is very different than when we're working with one dog, where every button just has a very easy, straightforward system. You got to do a little bit more work now to communicate with each individual dog. It is really nice to only have to have one remote to communicate with both dogs. When I'm walking multiple dogs, for example, I like to walk all of the dogs on my left side. And then I hold the remote in my right hand. So I've got leashes over here, remote here. If I do not have it set up to one remote, I could have several remotes in my pockets or on lanyards, and that could just become kind of messy. So it is really nice and useful to have one remote connected to several dogs. E-collar Technologies also has remotes that you can set up 3 and I believe 4 collars is the max that it'll do, to give you that flexibility to communicate with multiple dogs with only one remote. Very nice, but it is different and it takes time to get used to. So I hope that this was useful. I want you to take some time to practice, to review, to get really comfortable with it in a low distraction environment so that you can get really good at it, so that if you do need to use that e-collar when your dog is distracted or it's more of an emergency situation, working on your recall away from something, or you have a reactive dog, whatever it is, I want you to be fully confident that you can use this tool quickly without having to worry about, shoot, how do I communicate with dog one? How do I hit recall for that second dog? You'll have practiced it and you'll have known it really well by that point.